Welcome to the channel. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Today we will be looking at the CZen jumping hour complication field watch. Now we recently just saw the CZen jumping hour, and what I'm starting to see is just how versatile these complications are. It can be used in so many different styles, and what you will see is that with the Merkur brand in particular, they have possibly got the most variants for you to choose from. One in particular really does stand out. It's a gorgeous purple dial which features a very detailed dial. It's something I want to also review. But we've got to come back to the one in hand, and I have to say I am loving this military inspired field watch. It looks just right. I think the features blend in perfectly, from the choice of design, the color scheme, and the very unique case shape. So let's make a start so I can take you through the finer details. I'll be displaying the specifications and dimensions on screen. Now the one thing I was interested in checking was that movement used. It's a Seagull 1712, and including the CZen watches, this will be the third movement I've had in hand. This movement's performance was as follows. It's around about +5 to +6 seconds a day, an amplitude of 350 with a 0.2 beat error. Now this seems pretty accurate. We've got some really good readings there, but please also bear in mind that there is no information on the lift angle for this movement, which is required for an accurate time grapher reading. But you are getting a healthy 40 hours of power reserve and hand winding, but no hacking and obviously no date. And I'll say the same thing as I said before regarding the movement. There isn't anything out there scary or worrying, so it should be reliable for a good while. Now when we look at the dial, I feel it's quite an authentic representation of a military field watch. Things like that railway minute track, the thin Fortina printed Arabics, and the long sword style minute hand with a matte finish, they all come together quite well. The position of that printed CZen logo with the cursive automatic just underneath is well placed, considering it's almost halfway down the dial and it doesn't stand out like an eyesore. Now the red on the running seconds and at the sub dial is also a really nice touch. It just adds that tiny bit of color to the dial. There are also very subtle features that don't particularly stand out unless you see in hand. Now aside from those concentric circles on the sub dial which are visible and a pretty usual feature on a lot of watches, you also have them on the outer side of the dial. It's very subtle and they are barely visible. Now the dial is also curved around the edges and combined with that particular choice of crystal, which is sort of a high top curved edge mineral glass. It has a domed underside, and this gives a brilliant perspective and it brings the center of the dial quite close to the glass. Now the hour window, it is very similar to the one we saw on the Sugues. It's the same wide tapered window, and it's a seamless way to incorporate this hour window. Now they have also added lume to the watch. The single hand lume is just right, but the Arabics, due to how thin they are, it is slightly faded. The camera actually makes it look a lot better than it is, but no doubt you should still be able to make out the time in pitch black. So I think it is incredible to see such finer details on a watch of such a low price point. You can pick these up as low as £90. And I think Merkur are really on point with a lot of their watches, and I think they certainly do have a keen eye for details on the majority of their watches. Now moving on to the case, it is a vintage case shape and it seems like a rudimentary design, but it fits in really well with the theme, and it's also finished quite nicely. The A-face features visible linear brushing, similar to that of the 6105 cases that we used to see, and it's not satin brushed but with a slightly visible grain, which it does actually suit the watch. You then have polished curved sides, and the case definition is rather soft, which means you see a blended transition between the polished side and the brushing. Now having spent some time with this watch, I've noticed there's two special features on this case which make it one of the most comfortable cases you guys will ever experience. So when we turn the watch around, we will see what seems to be a hollowed out or a curved out underside of the case. Now this means the case back sits below the lugs, and this really helps the watch sit properly on wrist. And the second feature is how the whole case is actually curved. The side profile shows quite a dramatic curve, considering the lug to lug is well under 44mm. Now these two features are only realized when the watch is actually on wrist, and when it is on wrist it feels extremely compact and amazingly comfortable. And a watch like this you can pair with lots of different straps. The canvas material strap provided is actually really strong and gives a more rugged look to the watch, but you can also refine this by either using a really nice leather strap, which has its own appeal and I much prefer it on the leather strap, and my personal favorite would be the basic FKM rubber strap, which looks just as nice and gives it a more sportier feel. Now they also do offer this watch in another colorway, like a panda sort of variant with an off-white center, but I much prefer this one, having experienced it in hand. Overall, I'm actually surprised at how much I like it. There's loads of character in it, and I think you get that from the majority of Merkur watches. I've always seen it from their watches, and it's unbelievable how good these watches are at that £100 price point. So that's it from me today. Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next video.